Welcome to the Madness Table. You're watching us on YouTube if you're hearing my sultry voice. And in just a moment, we're going to hop into episode 103. Thank you so much for everybody who's helped us get over the hump of 100. All the folks tuning in, all you Maddie Baddies out there, we appreciate you. We love you, except for Brendan. If you want to know why, get on our Discord and ask him. If you ask him on Discord, he is legally required to answer.
I will have a detailed and cut to the fucking bone answer for all of you.
And each will be personalized and sent via text.
Yeah. I know where you live. I know your lives. I will tear you apart. Back to you, Andrew.
Indeed. Speaking of our lives, you could fund them through coffee. That's right. You can get Brendan one step closer to not relying on capitalist insurance plans. Come on down and join the revolution. Besides that, I don't know, like, rate and review. And now that I thoroughly derailed Will's train of thought, I'm gonna pass it over to him.
Bro, you didn't even know where to launch. Oh my god.
Yeah, I just rolled my own sanity check and failed. Oh shit. So I'm dealing with my short-term madness of I don't know where to go with this now.
Someone needs to give us a ratio of all of the failed versus succeeded sanity checks, because I could probably count on a single hand the successes.
They're mostly fails.
Yeah. Wow. So here we are in this very sensitive space, almost in that the party is very fractured. You have spent, I think in game time, it's been almost exactly a week or just over a week for how long the party's been in Blichtenstone. And within that time, so many things have occurred. Friendships have formed with Jimmy and his mother and some of the other denizens. You've cleared out new spaces for homes. You have thwarted incredibly old threats to the citizens. And then you have uncovered secrets. You found the old forge. And in the midst of all that, this demonic pawn, so to speak, the Pudding King, emerges and attacks the city, and you all come in and you manage to sift through everything to get in there and battle him. And over the course of this battle, he becomes empowered even further by his lord and rips into your minds and pulls forth these secrets and shares them with you all, and damages you in a way that the party, I don't think, has ever been significantly harmed in any such way. And so when we left you all, besides Artemis, you all went your separate ways, finding quiet spaces to rest where you could within the maze of Blichtenstone. And Artemis, when last we saw them, was amongst the people, kind of reveling in what happiness could be found, what food and drink they could scrounge up to kind of feast and celebrate the fact that this horror is over. However, the faces seen within the maze as lanterns are lit and multiple fires are turning over what bits of meats or vegetables that they could kind of scrounge up, stew pots are simmering. It's about evenly split as to how many people are happy and joyous and dancing while the rest are holding families close or strangers, formerly neighbors, together, as so many are missing. And Artemis, as you have been given a table essentially to yourself amongst those that are truly frolicking in this moment, They've given you a barrel of ale. They have given you plate after plate of food. And I imagine they have given you chairs or stools, whatever you could choose to sit upon. What's going through your head now as you are alone here in this moment amongst this joyous festivities?
Yeah, I imagine Artemis is letting this world kind of like orbit around him. And while outwardly he is joyous, he is in a kind of a calculating place inside. His ambition has to a certain extent been unmasked, and they're also at a pivotal junction right now. They have just toppled these threats in Bligdenstone, and they're hopefully their way is now going to be clear towards starting to move towards the surface again, with a populace here that is very much in their debt, and so hopefully, also uniting them with the Kingdom of Ember, as far as creating an anti-demonic force here in the Underdark. But I feel like Starcaller, he's sitting. He's kind of, he always has like a hand on or near Dawn's edge to hear her thoughts. But his other hand is kind of idly like touching the cloak that he got off of the Pudding King, and also kind of fiddling with the remains of his Gauss pistol, and wondering if that smith is even still alive to possibly repair it.
So it's so interesting to me, this image that you painted, and whether or not it was your intention, but like I can see it. I can see like you have your hand on the haft of Dawn's Edge, and then you have like on your belt, I can see the remains of your pistol, and then in the other, you're holding perhaps the inky hood of this cloak. And I picture like this lone table, and you're just entirely analytical. You're like, what's the next step in this greater plan that you have? And it, between Dawn's Edge and the cloak, it's almost like an angel and a devil on your shoulders. Like, here's the two halves of Starcaller almost. It's a cool image to me, this dichotomy you have of, that the darker almost thirst you have for conquest. Here's your a literal spoil in your hand, and then this voice of reason on your other, as we experienced last time. What a great image.
And while I'm hanging out here, if it goes long enough, might I try to ascertain what exactly this hood is?
Sure. Do you have an identify spell, or do you want to try to flag down somebody who might find someone who could help you with that?
Oh man, I would love to talk to a smarter person. So I'm gonna look for Nomi Passshutter or one of the other Stoneheart Enclave members.
Sure. Roll an investigation check for me.
Just what I excel at. Yeah, it's a 4. Yeah.
4. You don't see anybody from where you're currently sitting, but I imagine that somebody has noticed that you've kind of been, it seems like you've been searching for someone. So this person kind of comes up and they're like, excuse me, sir, are you in need of anything? More food or drink?
Yes, I would like to speak with either Nomi or, well, actually, now that I'm thinking of it, perhaps that's the fellow. Would you be capable of bringing one of them to my aid?
Of course, I will search for them this very moment. Excuse me. And they kind of bow and duck away from you and disappear into the crowd. Sefel, when we left you, you had gone off to your own space, and essentially you've all taken up residences in these either small rooms or almost like closet-like spaces. What do we see when we find them?
Sefel has sort of just been in a state of contemplation while he was in there. We saw a bit of that, quite a vulnerable moment of his at the end of last episode. And I think he's still very much in that space. He's trying to be analytical about it. Well, like he always does, or always had, and is just trying to figure out what to do with this scenario where they can't not move forward. Like, the entire time down here, it has been, what is the next step? What is the next mission? What is the next task that will lead us to the one after? And right now, the only question he has is, how do I move forward if I don't have my friends?
And does that line of thinking bring to mind anything in particular for him? The fact that this secret thought, this feeling he had of his friends using him as a tool, and this intense need, it seems, especially that we saw in the last battle, to be up in the front lines.
Yes, Sefel had a lot of revelations in his time away. The most important of which was that, well, in learning his past, he found out a lot about the kind of protector he used to be. How there was an entire lifetime lost to him, where his entire being was dedicated to protection in the largest of scales possible, like unfathomable scales, and that was the only thing that he did. And he doesn't care about that anymore. To him, the only thing that is important to him is the people who he has found and who have been with him. And he has done his best in his own way this entire time, even before falling, to protect the people around him from a survival perspective. You know, I need to keep these people alive so that they can help me stay alive. But it's towards the end and after, it morphed more into caring about the actual people. And especially with the person that he met in his time away, there were a lot of revelations about, you know, what he actually cared about, and those human connections to other people that he learned were important to him. And he's afraid that he's lost that with this group before he even was able to realize that.
As you're having these thoughts and these feelings, you hear a knock on the door. Do you answer it?
I'll be a minute. He sort of puts himself together, grabs his things, sort of makes himself look presentable. He he dons the hat of disguise again and puts on his human visage. And he'll answer the door.
You open the door and you see a younger deep gnome who kind of quickly bows awkwardly and is like, excuse me, sir, your companion, Mr. Starcaller, was hoping for some assistance with something that they found during the battle. He asked for yourself or perhaps Miss Pathshudder. I haven't been able to find them, but I just figured I'd let you know.
Very well. I will, I'll find Artemis. Thank you.
Of course, thank you. And they bow and they scurry off in the opposite direction.
And he sort of takes a minute. He, internally chuckles to himself and just thinks, anything to be of use. And he'll go find Artemis.
Scylla, you had found yourself in a kind of like a larger closet space, and what a beautiful scene or image you had painted of us to us last time of pulling out, I believe it was Indigo's journal. And
no,
or was
Indigo's journal was lost to the lava. I had
right.
scale mail from Indigo. It was all that I had from him.
That's right. And what was there another object? Was it
yeah, it was
Sue's?
for I had items from Sue, yes.
Yeah.
And from Sue, I imagine it's like tattered pieces of like recipes she had written.
Different alchemical things, but maybe even mundane like meals that you guys had on the road.
She's
mix these tubers.
Yeah. You put these tubers together, they create a nice crunch. Don't burn them too long.
Yeah. I love it. So you're sitting here with these items, and what's going through Scylla's head as to what comes next? Or is that not even on Scylla's mind? Are they just too conflicted with everything that's occurred?
Scylla is thinking about Indigo's very moral view, and she's thinking about the way that Sue was always able to point her in the correct direction. And she's trying to remember those things in the good in people as she's thinking about Cephal, she's thinking about Starcaller, she's thinking about the Pudding King, who she pulls out that etching that she got of that stone that was the Stone-Shined family. She's thinking about how the Pudding King started out as this good person, and then she's thinking about herself and the fact that she hasn't done great things either. And so it's just kind of this like these big questions are weighing of like when is someone too far gone? And so I think she's considering these things, and she's looking at the Stone-Shine family etching, and she's going to seek out the Burrow Warden Jagger.
Oh, okay. Do you gather up any of these items and kind of like put them back in your bag, or you're like, I'm gonna leave them here because I'm coming back?
She would not leave without those items.
Yeah. Okay.
They stay with her for sure.
So you look at this almost photograph or of such, and you gather up the things and you leave the room looking for the warden, and we're gonna jump back to Artemis. Artemis, I imagine it was probably a good 30 minutes before you see that small gnomish figure appear, and they quickly bow and they're like, your friend should hopefully be coming soon. Pardon for the wait.
No, not at all. Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Of course. And they take off. Now, Cephal, you've been asked this, but considering everything, what like how urgent do you tend to this request if you actually attend to it at all? I'm very curious how you'll handle this considering everything.
No, I think, he has his own feelings about things, obviously, but if nothing else, this is status quo. And that's better than the alternative. So Scylla isn't a person that wants to be heavily invested in his own emotions, especially hampered by them. So I think this is sort of an opportunity for him to sort of push it off and get back to some sense of normalcy.
Gotcha.
So yeah, he's not sprinting, but he's not holding back either.
He don't want to squid man run.
Yeah,
don't want to snap one of them old dead bones.
Yeah, the few good ones left.
So eventually, parting through the crowd, Artemis, you see Scylla appear in his human disguise.
You can't even come find me in a room to ask a favor.
I did not want to corner you after how things were left.
I appreciate that.
Also, I did not know where you went, and listen, he had a better chance of finding you than I did.
It's one of the more logical things I've heard you say.
He gets a nosebleed.
What do you have for me?
We'll get to that. Would you sit a moment first?
Sure. He sits.
Do you ale? Can you consume? And he's mouthing drinking to you.
I mean, you remember conversationally, I don't do anything with it, but
where does it go?
We don't need to talk about that. That's mechanics beyond the scope of the game that we exist in. So let's just leave that to the imagination.
No, fair enough. Sarkar will pass a mug over to Scylla.
Sure.
It is odd in a way to see you in this visage. Is this how you were before, or have you made this up?
No, this was me before and a long time ago. It's the most approachable image I could conjure for these people. I imagine the deep gnomes don't want to see a illithid walking amongst them. They've been through enough.
Fair. I do have something to ask you, but first I would know, not that I have a right to demand an answer, but what is next for us? After the way Scylla left, I worry she may not see in us.
I've worried the same. I remember our purpose to not run when we were given the chance, even now when we are so close to the surface. I think we both would see this through if given the chance. I don't know the cost it will reap, and I don't know my position in any of it anymore. There are complications I would discuss with both of you when and if Scylla comes around. But I would still see this through.
Good. On this at least we will agree. I don't know if there is truly a home for you or me or for any of us really on the surface, but at the very least I think it is worth a try.
I have come to the I've come to peace with the idea that I may not have a home above. But that does not mean we shouldn't make sure those who do keep it.
Wise words, Safel. Wise words.
How did you two fare after the bridge?
Well, we sought you immediately and fell rather quickly, not literally.
I
into
fell
the
quicker.
company of. That is true. We found the remains of the Minotaurs. I can't remember if we found the Goat Man, but we did not find you. And we saw your note. And Scylla was much aggrieved at your loss. Not that I wasn't, but you know, we had things to attend to. We ran right into a resident of Blingdenstone, the Hester that you have met in passing.
Small one.
Yes. He's a rat man, and you are a squid man. We are quite a little menagerie here with our fish lady friend.
That's good. That's good. I saw you fighting the genie creature. He seemed, well, Hester seemed quite adept, so it was good to see you in good hands.
How did you see this?
I ended up, after much traveling, I accidentally ended back in Sekarak's domain in Dimcairn. And much was revealed to me, not excluding your location and the situation that you and Blingdenstone were in. That was right before I came. He had means to get me here. It was a long and strange journey. I would wish to tell you both of it when things are less tense.
Yes.
Anyway, your request.
Yes. I don't know what this is. And he slaps like the inky wet cloak on the table.
Well, you should have led with that. The 10 minutes could have been spent. All right, well, shut up and give me another 10, and I will ritually cast Identify on it.
Yeah, and while he's doing that, since he can't talk, I'm gonna keep talking. And
Oh no!
since you are concentrating, the reason I wish to speak to you first is this is a partnership, after all. We may have goals that might not always perfectly align, but we are a partnership first. And though we at times will have our parts to play, we are not mute instruments in the doing. And then Artemis will lean back and touch the haft of Dawn's edge. How was that? Do you think that was pretty good? I think that was pretty good.
You can actually, as soon as your hand makes contact, you get this overwhelming feeling of joy and pride, actually. Like she's proud of you for taking good strides and steps in a better, non-tyrannical way. So you definitely feel that from her, and she kind of whispers, she's like, well done.
Thank you.
Now, can you sign this letter saying that we had 15 minutes of progressive, constructive conversation?
So, as you are conducting the identify ritual, I imagine, Scylla, there's no way that you don't notice the kind of larger table piled with both food and drink. And as you are making your way through the throng of people, you do see Cephal and Artemis kind of sitting at this table together, conversing. Does that bring anything up in Scylla or change her direction, or is she more like, you know what, I gotta find the Burrow Warden? What's going through their head?
Do they look like chummy?
I imagine you come up towards the end of this moment that we just left, where you see like they're having what looks like an earnest conversation, and then Cephal seems to be poring over this odd bit of clothing, and Artemis, you can see him putting his hand on Don's edge and just kind of like nodding his head, looking away from Cephal.
He's gonna kill me.
I think she would see it happening, and not sure how she feels about that either. She would sneak her way out, not wanting them to see that she saw it. She doesn't plan to be gone for long, so she figures she can always come back, and they might still be here.
Sure.
Maybe not.
Yeah, I picture the two of them just kind of sitting down their heads, and you're just kind of like that shot in a movie where it's just the protagonist in the crowd, and they're like head and shoulders above everybody, but they're still, and everyone's just passing about them. That's Scylla looking at the two of them before you
Sneaking out.
Yeah, you like look away, and then you actually see a ghostly form just kind of flittering over on the edge of your vision, and it could be one of the wardens.
Okay. Yeah, I will head directly to the warden. I imagine Scylla's kind of obnoxious about it, like getting right in everyone's way to like come straight line right at that person, not weaving around.
Sure. And I think there's probably one or two people that you bump into before everybody notices you, because you're a large, intimidating presence. So it's just like the sea parts, and you march right up, and you see that it is Burrow Warden Jagger, and they are conversing with a couple of like older teenage deep gnomes who are holding a couple of makeshift weapons, and they all look at you, the kids, and then they kind of bow and take their leave, and the ghostly form of Jagger turns to you, and they go, Scylla, how may I be of service to you, fine warrior?
Yes, Burrow Warden Jagger, I was looking for you. I had some questions. I'm hoping that you have been here for some time, yes? I'm hoping that you might have the knowledge I seek.
Well, I have been indeed here for quite a long time, and hopefully not for too much longer before my purpose is fulfilled. What is this knowledge you seek?
Yes, and she will reach into her bag and pull out the stone etching and show the Burrow Warden. I found this after our encounter with the Pudding King, and I found myself wondering if you had known the Stone Skin family, and
Stone Shine family.
Stone Shine, my bad.
I see it here on the plaque. It says Stone Shine. Stone Skin's
yes.
a totally different family. They're awful people. No, the Stone Shines, yes.
Yes, I would argue these people were not great either. But anyway, did you know the Pudding King when they were not pudding?
While I do not remember meeting the chap that would come to be such a vicious foe to us all, I do remember a Stone Shine family that belonged here hundreds of years ago, when the city was in its infancy, and they were amongst the nobility here. besides our king and queen, the Stoneshine family were amongst those that help both fortify but direct this city. They were counselors and dear friends to the king and queen. No, they were an exceptionally kind-hearted family, well off. Even before Bligdenstone was established, they had ties to the surface world. Old dwarven city, Gondelgrim, that's what it was. They had connections there, which I believe many of our ancestors, well, these young ones, I am their ancestor, many of these descendants here, have come from. It seems that our neighbors there of the dwarven kind gave many of us shelter. But no, the Stoneshines, when I knew them, were fine, upstanding people. I did not think any of them still lived, to be quite honest. The last I knew, many of the surviving members had given their lives to protect the king and queen.
I see. And she will look at the etching. Gondelgrim, then, it is a surface city, is what you are saying.
Well, in part. While it is not of the grey dwarves, it was of the hill and mountain dwarves. Very, very old dwarven citadel upon the surface, and a city that was almost like a hive that descended here into the Underdark a bit. I do not recall where upon the surface it sat, but I believe it was closer to the coast.
You have perhaps helped me in multiple ways. Gondelgrim might be a valuable stopping point for us if we could reach it.
Well, yes, perhaps indeed. I do know Madam Senny Digomatics had sent out a couple members from the Stoneheart Enclave to make contact with some of those within Gondelgrim for aid. Medical supplies, provisions, perhaps a bit of manpower to help straighten up the city. I would suggest speaking with them further about it if you have interests within that city or yourself.
I will do so, although I must confess that your prattling has gotten off track. I had other things to ask you.
Which
was...
I'm very sorry.
Oh, no, I apologize. I did not mean that in a derogatory way. I was simply had other purposes. Mostly, I had hoped you did know the Pudding King before they were what they were. And
as I said, I'm afraid not.
But you have been around for some time, and perhaps I find myself wondering what takes a person from being like Jimmy to becoming someone like the Pudding King.
I believe that what a both wonderful and awful question.
I came to you because of your age and thus your wisdom.
Yes, I understand that. Young mind. Settle.
Get him, Sam. Get him.
Those that I had seen follow such a similar path had done so after great injustice had been befallen them. And for someone to dip to such lows as we might see it, while to them it was perhaps a means of finding justice that could not be found otherwise. You see, I have found, Scylla, that the line between good and evil sits upon a razor's edge, and it is more often than not a matter of perspective that makes one a villain or a hero. See, your actions here, to many of us, to, I would say, presumably all of us, were quite heroic. You are a stranger who, not but a little over a week ago came here, not knowing anyone, has now become a friend, an ally, and you protected us, saved so many. But to those that like the Pudding King, you could be the villain in their story. You defend everything that they perhaps felt wronged by. And it's curious that you mentioned Jimmy. I have not seen them, unfortunately, since the attack began. Have you?
No, I had assumed that they were back with their mother.
Not that I had noticed, but I have not taken a means of watching over the young lad. But perhaps I can. But no, Scylla, I believe it is. It takes a great deal of wrongdoing upon a person to subject them to such a path. That is what I would say.
This has been quite helpful. However, I find myself increasingly worried about Jimmy now. Perhaps I would ask you one more thing, Burrow Warden.
Of course.
At what point is the perspective such that someone is too far gone?
I think that if there's someone that still cares enough about the other to reach out a helping hand as a means of aiding them, then that person cannot be too far gone. However, I think it is when the hand that is offered is harmed by the one who has been offered help, perhaps then that is the line.
Thank you, Burrow Warden.
Well, I do hope that my wisdom, as you put it, has been of good help, though I'm not always so sure.
Yeah, call him old again.
It has been very illuminating. Sometimes I find myself struggling with the cultures and customs of the people of the land. I find myself unable to read what someone is saying and what they are doing for truth.
Well, I suppose that what I've always fallen back on is actions speak louder than words, but do not necessarily throw away one's word. Back in the day, that was how we confided, how we had faith in one another, even in strangers, was on a word. But then we waited for the action to follow. So that is what I would say to you, Scylla, is if you find yourself in a moment of distrust or unknowing, speak. Let them speak. And watch for their actions.
This is good wisdom. I was right to come such an old being as yourself.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that. Now, I am going to hopefully find a ethereal mug with some ale in it that I can actually enjoy, and perhaps look for young Jimmy.
Yes, me as well. I will go rally a group to see if I can find him. Thank you again.
Of course. And then he, like, floats straight up, and he's just like...
Get me out of this immediately.
And he just flitters off in a totally different direction from you. You're not even sure if he's, like, looking for Jimmy at this point, but he's gone.
I will actually go and look for Jimmy. I think now Scylla would return to Starcaller and Svel.
Okay. Roll a perception check on your way back through the crowds to Sefel and Starcaller. Now, Sefel, you cast Identify as a ritual, yes?
Yes.
Okay. You learn that this cloak has been known as the Oozing Shroud.
Ooh.
This black and rippling cloak was once the cloak of the Pudding King, and over its long use became torn and ripped, creating multiple tail-like ends. And when the Pudding King met his master and pledged himself to the demon lord Jubilex, he was blessed with power and control to manipulate oozes. And over time, this cloak gained some interesting properties. This piece of clothing from a distance appears like any other dark cloak with a hood. However, as one begins to get closer, they see its surface ripples and shimmers like the dark waves of water, giving those who stare too long at it an unsettling feeling. This oozing shroud gives a +2 bonus to intimidate checks to all those within 10 feet of the wearer, as its uncanny movement brings unnerving feelings. And once per day, the user may envelop themselves in the oozing tendrils of the cloak, and allowing them and all their gear to become ooze-like, which then allows the user to move through spaces as small as 1 inch for up to a minute, after which the user is then returned to as much of their original size, regardless of the space they are in. However, you get the feeling that there is more connected to this cloak.
More as in, like, latent ability, or more as in something a little darker?
Both. You see, as you're, like, closely feeling over the material, and it's almost like tadpole jelly, like on the eggs, if you think about that. Like, that's what the outside feels like, but the inside just feels like regular cloth. And as you're kind of, like, pushing this kind of, like, oozing material, which kind of flubs back into its original shape as you, like, push and pull on it, you see in multiple marks what look like slits, and you can you feel them, because it's almost like there's these little ridges in certain spots, and they're perhaps only 1 inch or 2 in length, with maybe a quarter of an inch in width. And as your, like, thumb pass over these ridges, you're like, what the hell? And it almost feels like, make a nature check, actually.
Oh, God. Okay. 19.
It feels like closed eyelids.
Oh.
And you feel that, like, all over in weird spots of the outside of the cloak, and as, like, your thumb passes over it, you can feel it, like, that bulge almost just kind of, like, move and then settle back into place. And you recall the way the Pudding King looked when he emerged in his monstrous form,
Yeah.
and how eyes began to form and appear and move all across their body. And you think perhaps that if one were to devout themselves in the same way that the Pudding King did, that there's more that this robe/cloak could do.
Yeesh. This, on its own, there's certainly some utility here, not unlike things that we've seen. However, do not be confused, Artemis. This is a tool of Jubilex. So, I'm not one to make judgments of the things we use to do what is necessary, but be aware. I don't know the depths of this item's connection with the one who created it.
So, pretty cursed then.
Oh, most definitely.
Honestly, I already have 2 cloaks. You want this one? It's nasty.
I've got enough connections to worry about on my own.
Oh yes, that's right. That
yeah,
was one of your dirty little secrets.
Yeah,
yes.
we'll talk about that.
Sure.
I think this is for one of those Area 51 movies where they do like the shot of the guy walking out and the 10 iron doors closing in different directions.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah, this is a hide it and forget it item.
Yeah. Artemis nods
sell it.
and puts it back in his bag.
Yeah, you're just gonna sell this evil object?
Hey, all kinds of kinds, baby.
Do your thing, dude. Hey, you know what? We killed a guy, and this was on his body. You want it? Well, in the meantime, Andrew, I have put the oozing shroud in your inventory to look over.
I'll just take a look at that. It's probably fine.
You'll probably some interesting things about it as you read through it.
I mean, you can probably exploit it real. Like, what are you gonna do? Throw an arm in, say praise Jubilex, and you get a boon out of it. Like, it seems kind of like a net win.
There is no bad. There is no good. There is only power.
Scylla, what'd you roll for that perception check, by the way?
17.
17. You are moving through the crowd back towards Sfel and Artemis when you see Tappy, actually Jimmy's mother. She sits alone at a campfire a little ways away from you, and she's wrapped up in a blanket, and she's just kind of staring into the fire.
I will hurry over to her. Miss Foamstrap.
Hello, Scylla. Sorry.
How do you, how do you fare?
Tired, very tired, and
were you fighting?
No, I wasn't fighting. I was talking with Senny not long ago. She told me what happened during the battle, how what Jimmy believed was me, and for so many other family members and whatnot, that we were, there was copycats or mimics of us of a sort that exploded and harmed so many others, and ever since then, Jimmy has not been seen nor found.
Jimmy is missing.
Yes, and nobody seems to know his whereabouts. So I'm just greatly concerned right now.
I am concerned as well, but please, Tappy, do not worry. We will find him. I will gather those who I know, and we will immediately send out a search party. And Scylla will turn around and march off.
She's like, and you keep marching on, and she
if she's trying to say something, I'm like moving but looking back. Yes?
Thank you. Thank you.
And she will nod and spin off again, yeah, for sure.
And you eventually come back to the table where Sifel and Starcaller sit.
And so I'm
Hello.
saying I have 3 robes. I only have 2 shoulders. What am I gonna do with that? Scylla. It is good to see you. We were just about to trauma dump.
It is acceptable to see you both. We need to speak. However,
It's acceptable.
However, we cannot do so right now, and Scylla will stand on the table that they are both sitting at.
Oh,
And she will announce to the room,
is Artemis
Excuse
not the one
me?
monologuing?
"Excuse me, everyone in the room, please quiet down, quiet."
You just like record scratch. Everybody immediately like whips their head in your direction.
And we're in like a giant cavern, right? Like a
Yeah, it goes real loud. You see people on like the bridges and towers within this maze, just like people are peeking over the parapets, like
everyone in the room. The guy the block over. What?
Yeah. I apologize for interrupting your joy and merriment. This is of extreme importance. We are looking for Jimmy Foamstrap. Has anyone seen Jimmy?
You see a lot of people looking at each other, but from a number of like guards almost right in front of you, you just hear like a collective groan, like, "Oh, for fuck's sake!"
Oh, yes, you know Jimmy, the powerful slayer of foes. Yes.
The one who was very helpful many times.
And like over throughout this cavern, you just hear like a clamor of voices, one after the other, of just like, "No Jimmy up here!" And just more and more responses of people just calling back of, "No, haven't seen him. He's not up here. Not here." And then someone's like, "Oh wait, I think, nope, that ain't him." And eventually you just hear back from everyone like, there's no
Nobody's
signs of
seen
him. Nobody's seen him here.
Well, he is not here in the maze. Perhaps we may seek him back at the Foaming Mug or somewhere else in the city.
Yes, we will now split up into search parties.
But we just got down to eating.
This is extremely important, and you may eat after.
But what if he's dead? My
I think-
biscuits will be cold.
Scylla like whips her head and stares daggers at this person. Then you will eat your food cold in morning.
Yes, ma'am. Puts the biscuit down on like a rock. And you can see Senny starts moving through the crowd, and she's like, everyone calm down. I'm certain we can formulate search parties to look for survivors. However, and she's like at the foot of the table now, and she's looking at the three of you, but not everybody is in great shape to conduct a search right now. You yourselves have not even rested yet.
There is a small window of time in which you can recover a lost individual, and then the risk of death increases. We are short on time and will have to split up. If someone is unable to search, then they may stay.
Right, yeah. Especially if someone's moved to a secondary location, then like all
Yeah,
chances
at
are
that
totally
point,
lost.
you're basically SOL.
Exactly.
Do not worry. I will find Jimmy. And Artemis just stands up, picks up his cask of ale, and walks out.
So you start walking towards the big double doors that lead out of the maze.
Artemis, should we not just go together?
I thought we had to split up.
Teams.
Scylla was referring to us as in the hundreds of people here. We can stay together.
Alright. Yeah. Alright. Fair.
And so like the three of you just hop off heading towards the main doors.
I think we like quickly get like I don't think Scylla's crazy. Like if people some people can stay behind, take care of the wounded, rest up if they need to, and then maybe we get like 10 search parties of like 3 people, something not too crazy.
Okay. I picture, you're formulating this plan with Senny, and then eventually you get 30 volunteers, essentially. And it's, some decent groups, some not so much, but again, like, even you all have been quite injured, and not everybody's totally well at this point, but these
Speak
30
for yourselves.
are willing to go out,
Okay. Yeah, so I think we, as a group with a trio of us, we'll go the furthest out to the most dangerous places, probably, I would think.
Okay.
Well, do we want to go directly to the foaming, like sort of the epicenter of where he last was, or do we want to go even further than that, like outskirts?
I think we're foaming mug first, and then
expand outward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone else is kind of like more localized, where it's less dangerous.
Makes sense.
All right. So you've formed these search parties, and you are ready to set out on this mission to find Jimmy. And you all start heading towards the double doors, and a number of guards go on either side, and they begin unbolting it, unlatching, and eventually just open these doors. And as all of the fire and lantern light then washes out into the tunnels beyond, you see on the very edge of this light 2 smaller feet all of a sudden appear, and they start walking further and further into the light, and you can see it's covered, these feet and then legs and then torso, arms and head are just covered in wounds and blood, and their clothes are torn. But in one hand, you see a very fine but now beatered skillet.
Oh my god!
And in the other arm is a pair of old-looking leather-bound books. And you see that it's Jimmy. And they walk right up to the 3 of you, and you can see there are acid burns all over him, and he is just weeping blood from sores, and his skillet is bent and broken in many different ways, and he just kind of looks up at the 3 of you, and I took care of the last of them. And then he faints and collapses at your feet. And we'll see you guys next time.
God damn.
You heard it here first, folks. Here on Madness 103, Jimmy is the actual hero, and we are just his supporting cast. And we could, just like Jimmy, we're nothing without our supporting cast.
That's right.
Which is all of you, because you support us and love us every day, except for Brendan, and we all know why. But otherwise, thank you so much. Like, follow, and subscribe. And we'll be thinking of you, especially Brendan. Bye-bye.
Bye.